everybody. Hello. So let's start off with a happy new year. Um, and so the roller coaster continues. The roller coaster ride continues with the Leafs. Um, they didn't end 2023 off very well. Um, Leafs went through a rough stretch where goaltending was a problem, and they went. What was it? One 1-4-1 or something like that. It wasn't good. The last 6 games to end 2023 were no good. Goaltending is an issue, and so um, last year it looked like Samsonov was going to be the guy, and this year he's not the guy. And to create a roster spot for another goaltender, the Leafs have put Samsonov on waivers, and he's been assigned to the Marlies, but he's not actually going to the Marlies. He doesn't have to report there. He's not going to practice with them. He's not going to play with them, or um, as of now, that doesn't seem to be the case. Um, the Leafs are going to throw all the resources they have off the ice towards Samsonov and let him take a week off, spend time with his family, um, get feeling, have him feeling positive and happy again. And then, they have mental health professionals and whatnot. I mean, pretty much every resource at their disposal they're going to allow Samsonov to utilize to kind of get into a better mental state and hopefully a better goaltender again. Because this time last year, Samsonov was really good, and he took the reins and ran with it, and did something no other goalie has done in Toronto for the last 20 years, and that's win the playoff round. And he did it while he was hurt too. So we definitely know that he has the potential, he has the skill, he has all these different tools. Um, sometimes the mental can be, all encompassing. It could be the trump card, right? If you lose it mentally, if you don't have the confidence, none of the other stuff really matters. The other tools don't matter. So let's wish Ilya Samsonov a quick recovery, and hopefully he gets back to doing what he does best, and that's stopping pucks. So the Leafs ended off 2023 with a loss to the Rangers, the Buffalo Sabres. They won against Columbus. They lost to the Senators. They lost in overtime to Columbus again, and then they lost to the Carolina Hurricanes. And that was the story of 2023. Very up and down. It's the roller coaster ride that us Leaf fans ride, and then um, we flipped the calendar to 2024, and Martin Jones is in net. Dennis Hildeby, the Hildebeest, has been called up to back up. It doesn't look like from the schedule like the Leafs played the LA Kings on Tuesday, and last night they played the Anaheim Ducks, and now they have 2 days off. They play on Saturday, then they have 2 days off again. Then they play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. There's no back to backs coming up anytime soon, so it doesn't really look like Hildeby is going to play any games, which is perfectly fine. I know a lot of people just kind of want to see what he looks like at the NHL level, and he's definitely not ready. Um, he's the very definition of a rookie. He just came to North America in August. He's played, a handful of professional games in North America. So to say that he's not ready is putting it lightly. I mean, he is wet behind the ears. He's green, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter if you're playing the San Jose Sharks or the Anaheim Ducks. It doesn't matter who you're playing. You can't just throw any goaltender into an NHL game, knowing the caliber of the shooters. So Martin Jones is the guy, and The Leafs have flipped the calendar to 2024, and they start off the year with probably the best game they've played all year against the LA Kings. That 3-0 win was just a gem from top to bottom. The defense was good. The forwards came back and back checked, created a lot of offense. I mean, the goals were, not prototypical Leaf goals, but Tyler Bertuzzi gets in there, mucks it up, finds a puck behind the net, throws it out front. William Nylander scores the first goal. Once again, on the second goal, Bertuzzi's mucking it up and creates a turnover. Barehanded, one glove on, finds the puck, throws it to Kelly Yarncrook out front, and he makes a great move. Goes to his backhand and scores on Cam Talbot, make it 2-0. And then William Nylander, who's been a rock star all season, does what he does on the empty netter, drives to the net, and he drove it right to the net and just put it in the net. And he's got a point in almost every game this season. He's on pace for 45 goals and 117 points. And based on all the reports out there right now from guys like Darren Dreger, Nick Kiprios, and all these different guys, it looks like a deal is imminent for William Nylander. And the bad thing about the salary cap is this. You have a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs with an embarrassment of riches. They got Nylander, they got Marner, they got Matthews, they got Tavares, they got Morgan Riley, and shout out to Morgan Riley for the amazing season that he's having. He has to sit like Morgan Riley today. As I'm recording this, has the same amount of assists as Mitch Marner, and that's a testament to him, how good he is, how hard he works all over the ice. Number one D man. For all the people out there who say the Leafs don't have a number one D man, they obviously aren't watching Morgan Riley do his thing on a nightly basis, because he is good. So we're in 2024. Leafs have an impressive game against LA, which I thought it was going to be one of the toughest games of the season, considering how LA plays, how good they've been this season. And the Leafs really took care of business. They weren't afraid. They were checking. They were hitting. Austin Matthews gets dumped into the boards, and Matthew Nyes and Mitch Marner are right in there in the scrum. The Leafs are not backing down from nobody right now, and that was definitely the most complete game. And then we switch to the next night against the Anaheim Ducks, and the Leafs do everything other than score 7 goals. It's unreal how you can have 100 attempts at the net, 50 plus shots, and not score anything. Like, I don't know what type of black magic that Anaheim goalie Dostal is into, but there seemed to be some voodoo at work. I mean, the Leafs hit a number of posts, crossbars. Just Leafs absolutely dominated all over the ice. They had the puck everywhere, and if they didn't have it, they got it back real quick. And Matthews had a tap in, which Ilya Lyubushkin just barely gets a stick on, and it doesn't go in. And you see the way the game is going, and you're like it's crazy how like a night like that like just kind of develops. And all of a sudden Anaheim gets the puck to the net, and then Petrano scores, and you're like, oh no, it's going to be one of those nights. You lose 1-0, or it's 1-0, and you have to take out the goaltender, and then they score an empty net, and you lose 2-0 on a night where you had 100 attempts at the net, 50 plus shots, grade A opportunities left and right. But testament to the Leafs. You got to win those games. You got to find a way to stick with it and keep getting your opportunities. And JT scores to tie it up, and Austin Matthews scores a gorgeous goal in overtime to win that game. And all of a sudden, in 2024, the Leafs look like a totally different team from 2023, and that's like I say, it's as a Leaf fan, it's a roller coaster, right? They start off slow, then they get hot, then it's goaltending problems, and then all of a sudden, you see the way they end 2023. The last 6 games of 2023 were not good, and then all of a sudden, you just flip the calendar to 24, and the Leafs show up in the spots they should be defensively, forwards doing what they should be defensively, and then all of a sudden, you see them play that way, but it doesn't take away from the offense. And like I was talking on the last episode, like this team is going through so much, like injuries, AHLD men, third string goalies, fourth string goalies with Hildeby on the bench as a backup. Like the amount of things that are going on, the drama that surrounds this team, like it's easy to say like this is the NHL and you're getting paid for results and you should be producing results, but it's not easy dealing with this stuff on a daily basis. Like I can't remember a season where the Leafs just went through a couple of months of the schedule and there was nothing to talk about. There was nothing going on. Everything was okay. They're just winning. They're just clicking. Like, just it's a hard situation. Like we take it for granted. I think we definitely take it for granted in Toronto in terms of um how good this team is and how good the top end of the roster is. Like Matthews is on pace for 70 goals, right? 50 and 50 is still attainable. 70 goals. William Nylander, 117 points, 45 goal pace. Um, it's through it all, and I was referring to the last episode of the podcast. I was saying like it's good to step back and have some perspective, right? To kind of you know live like Leaf fans in general, the way I see it online, because we have almost 1,000 followers on Facebook and 500 plus on Twitter, and there's Instagram. Like we have over 200,000 subscribers on the site. There's a lot of interactions that go on, and it just seems like no matter where the Leafs are at, good, bad, every game is like the most important game. It's like how could you lose? But it's like it's also like a random Tuesday in December regular season game, right? I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like the Leafs are obviously not being judged on their regular seasons, because if they were, they've had seven of the greatest regular seasons in the last 7 years. In terms of they make the playoffs every single year, points are high, players are setting records all over the place. Um, Leaf players are actually winning awards like Ted Lindsay, Hart, Rocket, like Mitch Marner's up for the Selkie. Like, there was a time where like Jack Campbell was talked about in the Vesna race, and last year Samsonov was talked about in the Vesna race. Like, I think we're taking all of this for granted because all we're doing is looking in the micro in terms of every game. Well, tonight was a bad game; they're horrible, and then the next day they're really good. Oh my God, they're the best, and it's easy to live like that as a Leafs fan. But if you step back a little bit and just have some perspective on the whole thing, every team is going through something, right? Like you got the Minnesota Wild. Kaprizov got hurt. The way the Edmonton Oilers started off the season with all those goaltending problems, not being able to add anything because of their cap situation. Um, the Washington Capitals, they started off really bad. Doesn't look like they're gonna miss the playoffs. Doesn't look like they're gonna make the playoffs. And you got the Pittsburgh Penguins who make the Eric Carlson trade to kind of boost their power play and boost their offense, and then all of a sudden the power play actually goes dry for a very long time. They're not in the playoffs right now. Um, it just every team is going through something, right? Calgary has a bunch of UFAs. They don't want to sign, so Zadorov got traded. Tana's probably going to get traded. Hannafin said, I'm not sure if I want to resign, so he might get traded. There's something going on everywhere. Like every team has problems. It's not just the Leafs. Ottawa Senators got tons of problems. Montreal Canadiens have tons of problems. They were looking for Cole Caulfield to be like this high end scorer, 30, 40 goals a season. And he hasn't scored that much at all. Slavkovsky is not doing great considering he was a high pick. Like, there's something going on all over the place, right? It's not the NHL is not an easy league. Like, Detroit started off the season like gangbusters, and then all of a sudden they fell off. Then they signed Patrick Kane. They haven't gotten any better. They're not in a playoff spot right now, and it's just there are teams all over the NHL um, who are having problems right now. It's not just the Leafs, right? And then you see these teams go. Every team goes through something every season, right? And it's how do they deal with that kind of adversity, right? And a lot of teams trail off, right? It's um, the Tampa Bay Lightning lost Vasilevsky for the first half of the season, or they lost him from the start to Christmas. And, you know, they're not in a playoff spot right now, and everybody around them has games on hand. Like, the Leafs have played 3 games less than them. The Florida Panthers have played two less games than them. The Boston Bruins have played 3 games less than them. The Detroit Red Wings have played one less game than them. And it's like, like the Tampa Bay Lightning are in such a bad situation right now, where the Montreal Canadiens, who have 2 games on hand on Tampa, if they were to win both of those games, they would have the same amount of points as Tampa, and that's not where Tampa wants to be, obviously, in the standings, right? New Jersey has fallen off from last season. Uh, in the West, you know, the Canucks are having a great season. Vegas is good. LA is good. And then all of a sudden, Seattle can replicate what they did last year. Calgary is bad. Anaheim is bad. San Jose is bad. Chicago is bad. Minnesota's fallen off a lot. St. Louis has fallen off a lot. Fired their coach. And then you have surprising seasons from Nashville and Arizona. It's like everybody's going through something, and how do they deal with that? A lot of teams can't handle losing a star player. Like Minnesota lost Kaprizov, and then they fell off the map. They're like second last in their division, right? So to see the Leafs go through all of this and still have players having record-setting seasons, meanwhile, they're actually putting up points. And yeah, a lot of the times it's like, they were down by 3 or 4 or 5 goals, and then they come back and they tie and they go to overtime and they lose it. Be thankful that this team has enough gumption, has enough fortitude, whatever you want to call it, that they can come back, score a bunch of goals, get that point, and if they get the extra point after the comeback in overtime, then that's definitely a bonus, or winning in a shootout. But like, there are teams going through some stuff that are not putting up the same results as the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Toronto Maple Leafs have found a way to keep it going, and that's really a testament to guys like Morgan Riley, Matthews, Nylander, even a guy like John Tavares, who at 34 years old, a lot of people are saying he's done, he's slowed down, he's not fast, he's all this stuff, but he's still a point a game player. And last night he scores the goal to tie the game. and really kind of give the Leafs the boost that they needed. Uh, like I always say, it's a roller coaster ride to be a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. But if we just put some perspective on what's going on this season, it's not pretty. We all know that the team, as currently constructed today, is definitely not the team or the roster that they're going to be taking into the playoffs after, or the same roster after the trade deadline. So we know that there's going to be moves made. Um, but it's also not a coincidence that they're playing better defensively as defensemen are getting healthy. So Giordano's back, Lilligren is back, and now he's kind of he's found his groove again. He's found his stride. He's playing a lot. He's the last two games he's been really good and physical, and there's only really just Benoit in the lineup, and you know I don't know what the roster decisions are going to be after Timmins gets healthy or what the trade deadline looks like. But you know, when you go from three AHL D men in your defense core to six or seven NHL caliber guys, because you have Giordano back, you have Lilligren back, you're going to get Timmins back, all of a sudden the defense looks better and they're playing better. And a guy like Martin Jones is doing what uh, he's doing what a veteran goaltender should. The Leafs are really in a situation where it was just a hope and a prayer that Martin Jones could settle the situation down with what's going on with Samsonov and Woll being hurt. And who knows what the Leaf situation could be 4 weeks from now when Woll is back and you're running with Woll and Jones as the combination until Samsonov gets better, if he gets better. Um, a goalie tandem like Woll and Jones could actually, get you back in the race to win the division. And the games versus Florida and Boston for the until the end of the season are going to be the most important games because the Leafs don't want to give those guys any points, and they want to get all the points. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Leafs play in those games where they're playing Tampa, Florida, Boston, and they're really competing within their division. But by all accounts, Austin Matthews is playing great. The top six is going good. Bertuzzi's really finding his place on the team, and he's getting better game by game. And hopefully he can really hit 100% come the trade deadline towards the end of the season, so that he can just hit the ground running when the playoffs come. Because really, guys like Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi, their effectiveness, or I would say, to really grade those signings, those off-season signings, it's gonna be how they play in the playoffs. And for the most part, Max Domi has been a good playoff performer in his career, and so has Tyler Bertuzzi, because they excel at a time where there's no time and space, and you're looking to be gritty and be a dog on a bone and go get those pucks. And it's what we saw from Matthew Nyes last year in the playoffs, right? Nobody would expected Matthew Nyes to be as good as he was going to be, but then that's the style of game he plays. He's hard on the puck. He can take a hit and make a play. He can knock people off pucks with his strength, and I think we're going to see another version of that in Bertuzzi in the playoffs. And really, it's just going to come down to goaltending, right? Pretty much, when I think about Stanley Cup winners, Vegas last year they got a goalie to get hot. The Florida Panthers made the playoffs on the last night of the regular season only because Pittsburgh couldn't beat Columbus, and they lost that game. So Florida made the playoffs on a technicality, and then Bobrovsky got hot, and they went to the Stanley Cup final. And St. Louis was last in the NHL the year they won the Stanley Cup, but Binnington came in and got hot. And, Chicago won back to back Stanley Cups with rookie goaltenders who got hot in the playoffs. Um, you know, uh, Matt Murray got hot in the playoffs when he was a Pittsburgh Penguin. It's just whenever I think of a Stanley Cup winner, I think of you know who their goaltender was and how hot did he get. Like Montreal Canadiens went to the Stanley Cup the year they beat us in the first round, and Carey Price was all world in the playoffs, right? It all comes down to goaltending. The other pieces on the team will get figured out. Like the Leafs don't have to really worry about their forward core. I think they have more than enough offense. It's what is their defense going to look like after the trade deadline, and who are the goalies? Who starts game one of the playoffs, right? And those are the most important questions, and probably the most important question being who is in net game one? Is it Joseph Wall? Is it Martin Jones? Does Samsonov make a brilliant recovery? God knows. Or the Leafs make a trade, maybe. It's hard to tell what's going to happen right now, but all signs point to Samsonov spending time away from the Leafs for at least a month and a half, and the Leafs running with Martin Jones until Wool gets healthy, and then it becomes a tandem again. And then we're today is January 4th. So today's January 4th, and I believe the trade deadline is like a month away. So the Leafs have the Nylander contract to sign, which the rumors are it's going to be around $11 million, whether it's 11 and a quarter or 11, whatever it turns out to be. It's very hard to tell. Like every year, Nick Caprios has put out a number. The numbers always come less. Last year, he said Matthews was going to get 15 million. He got 13 million. He said William Nylander was going to get 8 million in negotiations when he held out, and he ended up with $6.9 million cap hit, which was really just a $7.5 million deal. So it's hard to gauge where it's going to be right now, but either way, I think we could all be happy about the fact that we're going to keep a player that was drafted, developed, and turned into a superstar in Toronto as a Maple Leaf long term. He's going to sign. It, and we should be happy that he wants to be here, and he's going to sign 8 years. Matthews and Marner didn't. Tavares signed a long term contract, but he couldn't sign for 8 because he wasn't a free agent of the team. But Nylander is the only guy who wants 8, so I think we should be happy about that. I think we should give him respect for wanting to be here for that amount of time. He doesn't want to play anywhere else, like he's always said, and I respect that a lot because he could easily say, "I've dealt with this market enough. I've dealt with the media enough. It's a little too much. I can get this money anywhere else." But he says he doesn't want to play anywhere else, and he wants to be a Toronto Maple Leaf his whole life. So, uh, you know, that's definitely points that I give to William Nylander as a fan. I don't want superstars to leave, but we'll see what the number comes in at. Never know. But by the time I record the next podcast next Thursday, William Nylander could have already signed, and we could be talking about that, or we might just do an episode just on the contract itself, and do another episode talking about what's going on in the season. But so far, so good in 2024. The Leafs have back-to-back games with San Jose, and seeing how their team is built and how bad they are this season, the Leafs could easily start 2024 on a 4-game winning streak, which would put them past the Florida Panthers and back into second place in their division and hot on Boston's tail. I mean, so you guys let me know. What should the Leafs do when guys like Timmins gets healthy, Ryan Reeves gets healthy? What kind of roster decisions should they make? Uh, you know, Robertson was a scratch last game. He did have some turnovers the game before. They put Pontus Holmberg in there, and then all of a sudden the Leafs looked really good defensively. So you know what the collective senses right now is guys like Benoit are playing good, so why take them out of the lineup when Connor Timmins comes back? But at the end of the day, Connor Timmins is a regular NHL defenseman, and he's looked good when he's been healthy. So it's a tough decision, right? Those guys could be a part of trades. I don't really know. There's been talk of Tanev, Leafs acquiring Tanev, but you know, with the amount of cap space that they have right now, with Samsonov on waivers, you have Timmins coming back off of LTIR. Samsonov might come back up at some point, so you got to leave cap space to bring those guys back on the roster. But you also want to make trades and you want to bring in money. So a guy like Tanev at 5.5 million might not make sense. He's a good player. Love to have him on the Leafs. He's a very hard nosed guy. Plays defense very well, but maybe a guy like Matt Dumba who makes 3.9 million in Arizona is, who's a right-handed D-man as well. Might make more sense. I mean, there's definitely options out there. You never know what the Leafs are going to do. There isn't a lot of rumors out there right now. It's been pretty quiet. I think the Leafs are focusing on trying to get Nylander done, and then once that happens, then you're going to see the Leafs switch focus to acquire a D-man and kind of get that going that way, because they definitely need to add one. Ideal situation, they add two, but the rumor is they're looking for a third line center as well. Max Domi is doing okay there, but maybe they will see him as more of a winger than a center. So the Leafs have needs. They definitely need to do their best to plug the holes. Like I have always said, on a game to game basis, you're on the pirate ship going into battle, and there's holes and there's leaks all over. How many leaks can you plug on a day to day basis? Kind of dictates how many games you win and how well you do. So, like these two last games, the Leafs have plugged the goaltending leaks. They've plugged the defensive leaks. Um, they're doing very well offensively, and they're scoring goals. Yarncroc gets a goal. Matthews gets a goal. Tavares gets a goal. They're getting contributions. Guys like Bertuzzi are really stepping up. So when you can plug that many holes, you start winning games. But there are some games where you can't plug the holes. The defense isn't as good. The goaltending isn't as good. And there's games where Jones, as good as he's looked, is still a third string goaltender and might have a bad game, right? It might have an off game. And hopefully there aren't too many of those. And 2014 is a good year for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I definitely wish them all the best. 2024 could be an epic season. Just for this sole reason, I think the Leafs have a lot of good pieces right now, and they're slowly starting to figure it out. And if they could just make a couple of trades to plug up some more holes, they can definitely go on a run. But at the end of the day, I think it's always going to come down to goaltending and who that goaltender is come game one. And the Leafs just need one of the guys to get hot, whether it's Samsonov, Jones, Wald. Someone's got to get hot. And like a good team like the Boston Bruins had two hot goaltenders last year in the regular season, put up a regular season, but come the playoffs, Ullmark and Swayman didn't get hot. They weren't as hot as they were in the regular season, and they choked. They were up 3-1, and they lost that series. Why? Because Bobrovsky was the one that got hot, right? It's always going to come down to the goaltenders. I don't really put to it. The offense is always going to be there. It's not about the core four. The Leafs need to figure out their defensive game and make sure that they have a goalie in the right place with the right support to elevate his game and stay at that elevated level for as long as he can, and try to get hot, because that's clearly going to be what sets them apart in the playoffs. It's the reason why they beat Tampa last year, was because Samsonov played better than the other goalie, and then unfortunately he got hurt and wasn't available in the second series. But I think if Samsonov was healthy and continued that play, all those 1 goal games versus Florida in the second round could have easily gone the other way. And like I said, comes down to goaltending and who gets hot. It was a shame that Samsonov got hurt and couldn't continue it. Wall was good, but he just wasn't as hot as the other guy, Bobrovsky. So, I mean, you guys let me know. Should the Leafs make a trade, acquire a goalie? Is there one out there that you guys think is a good option? I mean, after last night, maybe the Leafs just need to trade for Dostal, and maybe he's the guy, because he looked all world last night. His numbers aren't great in Anaheim, but Anaheim is not a great team. So maybe on the Leafs he can be a better goaltender and put up better stats. You never know. If it looks like Dostal was auditioning last night to be the Leafs' next goaltender. That's what that looked like to me. He heard the rumors that the Leafs were looking for a goaltender, and he said, "Right here," and then went all world. If I was Brad Tree living, I'd call Anaheim and be like, I'll give you a couple of picks for that guy. Anyways, but you guys let me know. Like always, I appreciate you guys tuning in, like and subscribe, and the feedback would be appreciated. Let me know. Is there a goalie out there? Is there a defenseman out there that makes sense? For me, it's Matt Dumba, 3.9 million on Arizona, but I've always said there's a lot of defensive defensemen out there like Benoit, like Lagesson, all over the NHL making $1 million or less, who are really good guys, and the Leafs just need guys to play defense, right? Stop thinking about offense. Klimberg was a bad signing right off the bat because they were thinking offense. They should have been thinking defense. Maybe they would have been in a better spot. Um, but that Klimberg loss when he got hurt and was done for the season was a huge loss for the Leafs, and they really need to fix that. You guys let me know. I mean, is there anybody out there that makes sense? I appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate the feedback. See you guys next week.